When it comes to Pro controllers on the Xbox, what has often been the default first option that a lot of people look at is the Xbox Elite 2. This is a first-party option that comes with a whole bunch of different special features, a lot of the mainline ones that people are really interested in, but there are plenty of other options out there. And a couple months back, Razer released their newest option, the Wolverine V3 Pro, a controller that I honestly really enjoy. And so I want to do a direct comparison between these two Pro controllers, break down what exactly they each have to offer, and give you a better idea of which of these Pro controllers is going to be a better fit for you. First things first, let's talk about the grip design and comfort of these two controllers, which is pretty comparable. They're not identical, there are changes here, but in terms of just being both comfortable options to use, they work out very similarly. The Elite 2 obviously is going to match a lot like the regular Xbox Pro controller, so if you like the grip shape of that and you want something that's going to be the exact same, the Elite 2 is going to be bringing that. It's a rubberized grip, so it is more comfortable and better dealing with sweat, but shape-wise, it's the same as the regular Xbox controller. Meanwhile, the Wolverine V3 offers something that is similar, but it's a little more rounded at the edges. The grip shape is something that's maybe just a little bit thicker. I will say that in terms of just if I had to pick one that I found to be more comfortable, I lean towards the Wolverine V3, but they're pretty neck and neck close when it comes to just the general comfort of long-term use. Now, in terms of very common Pro features that are shared across both these controllers, they do both have remappable additional buttons. In the case of the Elite controller, it is a set of 4 back paddles that are removable, so if you want the option to not have to deal with having back buttons, or there are times where you want to remove them because you're afraid of accidentally pressing them in a game where you're not using them, that is an option on that. Whereas with the Wolverine V3 Pro, this is going to have a set of 6 remappable buttons total, so you get 2 more over the Elite. However, they are built into the controller. These are buttons, not paddles. So if you are afraid of accidentally hitting them when you don't want to use them, you're gonna have to make sure to actually program them in a mode where they don't have any feature, because otherwise there is always going to be that light fear of accidentally pressing in some cases. As I mentioned, there are 6 of these instead of 4 on the Elite. 4 of them are located on the back grip like in most Pro controllers, with 2 more that are located at the top between the triggers. Personally, this location is one that I don't really use a whole lot, though I have seen the argument that the benefit of this location is that it actually works out better for claw-style grip. I don't use claw-style grip, so it hasn't really come up for me, but if you do, this might be an additional benefit that this offers that the Elite doesn't. Next, swappable stick heads. Both of these give the ability to remove the stick heads that come attached to them and swap in other options. In the case of the Elite, you have 4 more options you can work with. There's a single tall neck, a single shorter one with a dome style, and then 2 sticks that just offer basically a larger head design compared to the regular one. Meanwhile, on the Wolverine, you just have the single tall neck and single dome shape, which I think for most people is really what you actually need, but that is fewer options than the Elite offers. I will also say that when it comes to the swap mechanic on these, I like the one on the Elite more. It relies on magnetism, so it's very easy to just quickly pull a stick off, throw the next one on, no problem. With the Wolverine, you do have to actually pay attention to how you're putting the stick onto the module and line up these little arrows to make sure it snaps in just right. This does mean that the Wolverine sticks are a little bit more secure, so if you're the type where you just sometimes really go full force on a stick and you're afraid of maybe knocking it off if it's a magnetic one like in the Elite, that is a benefit for the Razer, but generally when it comes to just swapping them on and off, I do find the official Xbox controller to be a bit more comfortable. Next, let's talk triggers. Now, a lot of Pro controllers tend to offer the ability to change the pull distance of a trigger. Sometimes you want to have that short one, and both of these offer that, although in very different forms. The Elite 2 offers what kind of used to be the standard and was very common across a lot of Pro controllers. There's the full pull that works like using a regular Xbox controller, half pull where you still have a little travel distance, but it is faster to do repeated inputs very quickly, and then a short stop where it basically just travels a very small amount of distance and you can press it very rapidly. By comparison, the V3 Pro offers only 2 modes, a full pull, but then also what Razer calls their instant click triggers. Instead of a short stop where the trigger just stops very quickly and almost feels like you should be able to go farther, but you can't, the Wolverine actually changes it to being a mouse click style feedback, so it feels like a button you're clicking, which feels so much more natural. Now, something that doesn't have to do with the controllers themselves directly, but is a nice bonus they both come with, at least when you're getting the most expensive versions of them, both come with carrying cases. So these give the ability to store away all the extra bits and pieces they both have, the dongle for the Wolverine, the swappable stick heads on both controllers. The Elite controller option does have one kind of fancy extra extra benefit in that the case also doubles as a charge case. So there's a little actual chargeable base that you place the Elite controller on, and you can plug that in while the case is closed up. So if there's ever a time that you want to recharge controllers between sessions, you can leave it in its carrying case and still plug it and charge it. Wolverine, you're gonna have to break it out and plug it into the system. Not the biggest deal in the world, but that is a cool benefit the Elite offers. Another thing both these controllers are capable of is software customization, where you can set up the remappable button options for the controllers, adjust things like trigger sensitivity, and thankfully both of them offer software that is immediately available on Xbox and on PC. So you don't have to rely on any kind of external third-party app, you don't have to use something on your phone, you're able to customize it directly on the device that you're using it to play on. When it comes to customization options, the Elite controller does offer a couple other little fine-tuned things you don't get on the Wolverine, though one feature on the Wolverine that's very nice that you don't get on the Elite is a clutch feature, which is basically an option for your remappable button where while holding it down, it adjusts the sensitivity of a stick of your choice. So if you want a time where you want to dull the sensitivity, for instance, and you want to be able to do some more refined aiming in a game, you can do that as a feature on the Wolverine that is not present on the Elite. Now that about covers it for all the main kind of keyline features that most Pro controllers have and that these controllers have in common. There are a couple things that are unique to each one, however, that you're not going to get from the other. In the case of the Razer, at least as far as list of features go, there's really not a whole lot extra that it does. One of the biggest things that I love shouting out though is the Mecha Tactile buttons, whereas the ABXY and the D-pad on the Elite are going to feel like they would on a regular controller. In the case of the Wolverine, they have this clicky feedback where it's actually a fusion of a mechanical switch and a mesh button. So you're getting the travel distance of a mesh button, but the very rapid clickiness of a mechanical, which is something that I personally find to be incredibly satisfying. I'll also say that as far as just the experience of using these two controllers back-to-back goes, while there's not as many features to list on the Wolverine, just the general build quality and feeling of the controller in the hand does feel better to me. It is also a more expensive option at $200, which is probably what part of that has to do with, but I feel like when you're looking at specific features, for the most part, I do think the Wolverine comes out a little bit ahead. Meanwhile, with the Elite 2, there are quite a few more special features that are unique to this that you're not going to get out of the Razer. For instance, while both these controllers have the ability to swap the stick heads, the Elite 2 offers the ability to also change the tension on the sticks between 3 different levels. Now, I personally like to have a little bit more tension on my sticks. I like them to fight back a little bit, so this gives me the option to swap to that. If you would prefer a looser stick option by comparison, though, you can change this to that. Whereas with the Razer, if you don't like the tension on the sticks, you can't change that. That's just the way that they are. On top of that, not only can you swap sticks on the Elite 2, but you can also swap the D-pad. Right now I have this faceted design on it, but if you prefer a more traditional cross-shape style, you can put that on here. Whereas with the Razer, you have the singular circular style D-pad, which does work well, and I love the tactile feedback of, but if you like the option of just having a traditional plus shape, you can do that on the Elite 2, can't do that on Razer. The Elite 2 also offers the ability to quickly swap between profiles. Both these controllers give you the ability to program different profiles so you can swap between them, but on the Razer one, you basically have to dive into the software and choose which profile you want to have activated, whereas the Elite 2 gives the ability to customize 3 different unique profiles, as well as just always having a default option available, and at a single click of this button here, you can swap between those on the fly, making it very easy. One other thing the Elite 2 has over the Wolverine, which isn't really a functional advantage, but I think it is something that some people care about, there's a lot more vanity options available. There are a couple different colors you can buy right out of the box. They have it in the regular black, white, there's a blue one, or you can get into Xbox Design Lab where you can actually customize a specific look you want to have your controller. You're going to pay more doing this option, but it allows you to pick from a lot more color options and even some special designs that you wouldn't normally be able to get just off of a store shelf. So if having something beyond the usual traditional black controller design is something that is important to you, or you like having a little bit more personalization to your controller options, that is something the Elite 2 is going to continue to offer that I don't really see Razer getting in too much. They usually have 1, maybe 2 color options. The skins can add some more, but that really doesn't quite hit the same. Both of these controllers do also have cheaper options available. In the case of the Elite 2, it's not really a different controller as much as it is just a simpler bundle. Basically, you lose out on the swappable parts like the stick heads and D-pad, you don't get the back paddles, you don't get the carrying case, you just get a fully functional controller by itself, and you can buy those other individual parts later if you want. This does bring the price down of the controller a little bit, although honestly, value-wise, I feel like you're getting a lot more just grabbing the full set if you can. But if you really just care about those core functions and don't need the swappable parts, including the back paddles, which are probably the biggest loss, you can save some money going that route. Meanwhile, with the Wolverine V3, there's actually a much more significant difference with its Tournament Edition controller that is half the price, jumping all the way down to $100, which actually ends up making it the cheapest option out of this lineup. And what that does is the biggest trade-off right away is it's not wireless, it's a wired-only controller, so you have to plug it into your Xbox or PC, which in PC setups, I feel like is usually a lot more acceptable. Xbox, living room situations, I can see a lot more people wanting to keep wireless around, but you're still maintaining a lot of the main core quality stuff, including those mega tactile buttons. You also lose out on the swappable stick head, the carrying case, it doesn't have the rubberized grip, which is honestly, I think, actually the biggest loss when looking at kind of the core functionality of the controller, but you do end up saving quite a bit more money. And honestly, as far as just pure value per dollar goes, I think the Tournament Edition might be the best one on this list. There are a whole lot of reasons to spend a little more to get one of these nicer options, but if you just want a solid, strong controller and don't mind a wired-only option, that has a lot going on in its favor. Ultimately, I think where I sit in terms of comparing these two controllers, again, I think there are some unique benefits each have to offer that might be a better fit for some folks. The Elite offers a little bit more customization. You can do the different D-pad shapes, you can adjust stick tension, you have a lot more vanity options to go with as well, and that's all coming in at a lower price tag, at least compared to the wireless option that the Razer offers. Meanwhile, the Wolverine V3 Pro, while being the most expensive option out of these, as far as just the quality goes, and I think, what specific features are being focused on here, it is an option that I personally like more. The Mecha Tactile buttons are just fantastic. I think it is a very comfortable controller. I think all the specific special features that are being focused on here are ultimately the ones that really matter to a lot more people. It doesn't offer quite the same range of customization the Elite does, but it is a very fine-tuned, excellent controller that you're also going to be spending the most money on out of any of these. So those are my thoughts on the Razer Wolverine V3 Pro versus the Xbox Elite 2 controller. I will say I feel like we're hitting a timeline point here where maybe it's time for Xbox to update the Elite option and offer maybe an Elite 3 sometime soon. There's just a couple things I think that have changed in the Pro controller space that they could update and to adapt to and make for something that I think would be a even more compelling comparison than what these ones are currently offering. I do have both of these controllers as well as different model options for them linked down below in the description. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all later.